All right, it's Friday. It's November 7th, 11/7, a lucky number. The Wall Street Weekly Wrap Up. I'm your host, John Newquist, and let's get into the madness that was this week. Wow. Up and down, mostly down. And let's take a look at our NextGen portfolio, down 0.47% this week. The cumulative return 18.8, so our portfolio's up 18.39. What do we have? A government shutdown. There was an offer by Schumer to sit there and try to make peace and offer pay the health care benefits for a year, and then they'll work on it. They didn't bite on it. They said it was offered before. Who knows? But the airports are getting crowded. I watch them. The airports are packed. Planes are getting canceled. 700 flights today. How much tomorrow? 1,000, maybe 1,200 by the Sunday. It's going to be madness. Everybody's coming up for Thanksgiving. And everybody's saying, wow, I don't like being at the airport. I don't want to fly. Why can't Congress get this resolved? This is what people are. I'm watching on TV, and it's like, oh, yeah, I was thinking about going, and once I get paid by some clients, I was going to go over to Europe or somewhere, Vietnam or something else. But the crypto correction, man, Bitcoin below $100,000. Oh, my God. And, I always watch what somebody said. Bitcoin leads the market by a month. So that means we could have an ugly, ugly November this time. But let's take a look how we did compared to everything. NASDAQ, of course, took a haircut. Still beating us right now. But we're on S&P comparison. We're still about 4% above it. The Dow Jones went down a little bit. The Russell's coming down. But a lot of stuff went down for the week. And that's the one that everybody's watching on the technicals is the Qs, the QQQs representing the NASDAQ. It's at the 50-day moving average. This is where people are going to worry. Will it go down lower? Then where is it going to stop? 540? That's a 10% correction. Tick, 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 tick. We don't know. I mean, this is what they're going to go through. Alexa, what's the S&P 500 at?
When the market closed, the S&P 500 was up over 8 points or 0.13% at 6,729.
6,729. A little bit further away from 7,000. So, the indicators, we've cut the rates 2 times in a month, and we didn't drop a percentage. I mean, we just dropped a 0.5%. Everybody's saying that December will be a rate cut. It's almost a slam dunk if we're opened up. Never underestimate the government not to. Have problems in getting the funding and everybody arguing about it. It has to impact people that scream at their Congress people to get things settled. And we aren't there yet. It's annoyance, a lot of annoyances. Crude oil, hovering around 60, that's good. Good for everybody driving a car. Natural gas, high, high, high. I'm looking at trying to figure out why my natural gas is lower. I know I insulated the house a lot, but it shouldn't be lower than the last few years. So, gold hanging up. Remember, we were at 4,500. It's hanging on 4,000. People says, "Oh, the gold did its 10% correction." You're right, it did. Are you going to buy it? I think it's a good time. You want to buy a dip in gold, you get your chance. Same thing, silver, $50. Kind of not as much of a drop. Copper went below 5 finally again. But this is high for copper. Remember 450 is our magic number.
This is a reminder. Are we going to get a 10% correction?
Well, we got...
This is a reminder. Are we going to get a 10% correction?
That's a good question. I wonder if I have my highs here. Let's say we're up about 630. We're at 609. That's about, what, 20 points? We got to go another, 6%. I mean, maybe 7%. So I don't know. I think the earnings are good, but that doesn't matter what the people think is good or bad. It's matter what the market wants to do, and the market, people are scared. I mean, 80% of the people are not beating the benchmark of the S&P 500. That means 80% of the people you see on TV or more can't beat the Vanguard S&P 500 fund. They can't beat it. Yet they talk all day long like they're the best investor in the world. I mean, it really is kind of, a disservice. And, it's always a good time, buy the dip, all these stuff. I want to see the records of these people. I don't see them. So I just look at the people I know personally and the people I see trade, post the results, what they have, and you can go and do a portfolio analysis and stuff like that. But it's an issue. NVIDIA, of course, I forgot the NVIDIA chart. See, when you're tired, you make mistakes. But I wanted to get the thing done today. That's why. Uh, NVIDIA, we were up at 200. Now we're at NVIDIA's like 184. Alexa, what's NVIDIA stock price?
When the market closed, NVIDIA traded at 188 US.
Oh, 188. I'm thinking, why am I thinking it's 182?
0.03722% since previous
So it's good. I mean, you got to remember last month or early October was 172. It's kind of given up half the gains it hit when it hit over 200. So, it's still strong. Of course, we're heavy on NVIDIA because that's one of our three kings in the tech. Trump said he's not going to let the advanced chips, they dangle this thing in front of China, and of course it's not happening. Everybody that's into defense, like, no, don't give them the best chips that we got. I said, you can give them one. It's like giving a Ferrari. It's great, but you can't win an army with a Ferrari, Got something that goes fast. You need an army of them. UAE is going to get their, they're going to spend hundreds of millions of dollars for their data center. And Microsoft, for some reason, I don't know why Microsoft is going to ship the NVIDIA chips, but I have a feeling they're going to try to build the same thing they did in Wisconsin with the chips they got. And we don't know if it's Blackwell. I haven't heard the confirmation, yes or no. I've heard that it was going to be, but, I don't know. But they're going to try to build the same thing, and they're going to have a lot. I just don't know if the UAE is going to kick in like $20 billion or something. I mean, that's a lot of money, but, they got it. It's just that will they do it? Or are they going to get, we'll get the Grace Hopper chips and cut the cost in half. We'll see. ARM come out with earnings. I like ARMs. Look at it, 34%. That's pretty good. Upside guidance. Why? Because they make the CPUs for the Blackwell. And they confirmed they're going to make them for the Vera Rubin chips. So, I love everything about ARM. It's one of our three kings, TSM, Taiwan Semiconductor, and NVIDIA, and ARM. You can't make the top chips without that. Now, we're going to talk about Google in a minute, but, I mean, this is a solid chart. I mean, again, people like, well, it's kind of flat over the 200-day moving average. I know, but, they're going good. I mean, this is good. This is really, really good and stuff. So, I mean, I think ARM was a great quarter. And what do? We get the earnings and it drops. Well, of course, everything dropped this week because of the AI bubble fear. It's overbought. I'm going to sell. People are panicking. If you're up ahead, you want to say, well, I'm going to take my money and do things. Now, we're going to show you. We traded a lot this week. We probably trade more this month than the rest of the year. But that's because I call it the fall cleanout. We're just going to get ready. I hate to try to sell the stuff in December because the bad stocks are worse and the good stocks are higher. And so if you got bad stocks, to me, get rid of them in November. Then we try to do this. Okay. I don't know why that caught. All right. I'm a fan of UFC, and TKO owns UFC. And they missed on earnings. Now, it fell 27%. Wrestling was up. UFC was down. I know last year they had the UFC 306 at the Sphere. Broke all records, sponsorship, everything, attendance, sales, merchandise. So that's a tough one to go in there. But it shouldn't fall 27%. And then, of course, if you watched last Saturday's UFC, Davali beat Dugarian and subbed him in the first round. And we watched the line movement for the Davali, who's a big underdog, drop quite a bit. Didn't become the favorite, but dropped, from like minus 250 to like minus, 150, 120. And the sub bet, the value of sub in the first round was insane. They actually stopped it in some of the books. Well, Dana White said, I called the FBI about it. I asked Dugarian and his lawyer before, do you guys taking it? We're seeing a lot of odd action. No, everything. Then he gets subbed in the first round. They cut him in Sunday. He did the right things. But what we've done now is that I go back and I watch Onama, who trained with Dugarian, didn't fight back against Steve Garcia. Basically just been defensive, got hit a few times, nothing clean, fell to the ground, and just covered up. Yeah, nobody sits there and looks at that, but I'm thinking this is not good. I had the amount of money that I would have won if Onama would have fought like he's done. He's never been knocked out before, ever. And he's going to go out and curl up like a 5-year-old kid getting beat from his, you know, older brother or something. Come on. It's nonsense. So I think the scandal's hurt. I hear it all the day. I mean, because I watch it all the time. I hear it a lot. It's hurt. It's going to hurt the UFC because if you think the fights are rigged, you're not going to watch the UFC. You're not going to bet on the UFC. And there's a lot of negative things. I mean, you go back to the Black Sox scandal with the shoeless Joe Jackson and that's a turnoff to the sports industry if they think things are rigged. There's plenty of things to bet on, like NFL right now, NBA, and everything else. Of course, the NBA's got their own scandals, and is that going to slow down the betting? I don't know. But now we're going in there. You got to remember, if the one person was right, Bulgaria made about 68, 70,000 in 2 years. Poverty wages for a
This is a
person.
reminder. Did you really sell that many stocks?
Yes, you'll see it. You'll see it at the end. I'll
This
try.
is a
I covered a
reminder.
lot of them,
Did you really sell that many stocks?
and I did. But this is an issue. I sat there and said, what do other leagues do? I think we're at the point where if you're going to sign somebody to contract, you're going to have to give them like 30,000, like a minor league A ball player. Give them 30,000, and then give them so much per fight. It might be 2, 3, 5,000, but something else to make it. Because otherwise, you fight twice a year and you're getting 5, 6, 10,000. You can't live on that. You got to get another job. I mean, I know UFC fighters that are working security. They're doing other jobs because they can't make a living. Yet the company's making billions of dollars. I mean, decreased to 29 million. Um, to 300 some million. So you got enough. You don't have like an army of baseball players and stuff. You can afford to go in there, and that's the only way I think they're going to get out of it. Maybe you just hope everything goes away, and maybe a big card gets everybody back, and that's it. But there's a lot of people out there that really think a lot of the fights over the years have been rigged. What's a lot? 10, 15? I don't know. Not like hundreds. Not the big fights. But I mean, on these cases, when you got fighters that are making poverty wages, and I'm going to like 25,000, 30,000. I'm going to call that poverty wages because you get food stamps at 25,000, and you're getting hurt, and you're spending money on medical and training. Everything is not free. You don't go to these academies. So we're going to see. I think, like I said, he's going to have to start doing like a minor league system. Your first year, they give you a contract. You got guaranteed 30. You fight so much, and that's what you're going to have to consider. And and go into that thing. There's a minimum that you're going to get, kind of like not the NBA minimum, but like a AAA baseball player would make 60,000 your third year with the UFC. Something like where you've been around and you've been good. That they're going to take care of you because we have 325 million. I know it costs money to put on, but I think we're at the point that you're going to have to do it because how can you stop these small little cards at the apex where they can approach a fighter and said, I'll give you $50,000 to throw it. I've got all these people that are going to bet on it. Of course, the casinos immediately see pounding on it. Today, we were talking about the weigh-in for Ismail Bonfim, and he looked bad. He got helped off the stage. I immediately, I had the Bonfim opponent, but I mean, I was thinking, man, he does not look good. And I said that's easy. With that bet, people watch these weigh-ins and they think, oh yeah, that's good. I always give a small thought because I thought Sean Strickland when he beat Asanya, he looked like death. He looked like the worst fight I ever saw. I mean, he's licking his tongue. He's dehydrated, yet he sat there and won the fight. So I always tell people don't go by the weigh-in because I have enough cases where I thought people were like death and they didn't. But getting helped off the stage is a bad thing, because but all of a sudden DraftKings pulled it. You couldn't bet on the fight. I go to bet 365. You bet MGM. They got it still, but now instead of being like minus 250, the underdog is right up there and stuff. So um, not good, and he's fighting Padilla. So I think Padilla is going to win at plus 125 is what the last I saw. But you know, it's like it's high, and this is he's not throwing it, he's just dehydrated. But these are things where people are going to go in there because you can start going back, and if they interview a lot of people, they're going to start seeing smart people said, no, I think this person could have thrown this fight, and you got some questions. FBI is involved with it apparently because he called the FBI. They do a lot of things. Again, I look at it. You got a tough life as a fighter, and you're doing it. Now, I ran it all, not ran it. I drag on because this is like one of my favorite sports, and I like it, and I'm going to watch it. But you're going to look at it. There's certain gyms I'm not going to bet with. Certain fighters that don't look like they're fighting very good after fighting very well. I'm never betting on it. Just me. All right, so maybe a 1 year, 2 year guarantee amount. Kind of like AAA or Class A baseball. Give them 30,000 plus so much a fight, and then next year you could re-sign them, and next year, it would take away. It gives them some guaranteed income versus this nonsense where somebody can give you $50,000 for a fight, and you say, well, I've got 3 wins and I lose one, big deal, but I got 50 grand instead of 4 or 7 or 10. Pesky or Paramount, again, they own the UFC, and if they, let's see what she's got to say.
Do you think the dividend stocks are worth buying versus the tech stocks?
We're always hedging on the S&P 500. That's our benchmark.
Do you think the dividend stocks are worth buying versus the tech stocks?
Yeah, I like I said, if our goal was to beat the NASDAQ, I could just take all my NASDAQ stuff with no dividends and say that's my portfolio, but I'm not. I like talking about other stocks and other sectors, and we're going to try to balance. We did some removing today and shuffling to make it probably more balanced than anything else. Like I said, Paramount owns, has got the contract for 7 years with the UFC. Again, if people think the fights are fixed, then people will not watch. They won't bet on it, and you don't bet on. It's like with football. You got all these props. Now you got to get 4 more yards for the quarterback on throwing. You watch the end of the game until he gets that prop. That's what I actually watch people. The props are a big deal, big money maker. But if they think it's fixed, you're going to see people doing it. We've had the scandal in the NFPA. Now, my thing also is I've seen a lot of questionable stoppages by the refs, and refs aren't paid at all near what a fighter makes. So, again, who's vulnerable? People who are out there busting their tail, doing the refereeing very good, and then all of a sudden they do an early stoppage, and next thing you know, their fighter wins. And were they getting in? I don't know. These are things that nobody talks about. They bought professional bull riders. I like that. I mean, I went to that at a time. It was fun. But they're all arguing about Warner Brothers Discovery. I really don't know how much it's worth. To me, you can make your own content. I always think of Steve Case and AOL buying Warner Brothers and become a monster company. And had he thought of the Netflix idea, he could have been, trillionaire. But we'll see. I just don't know if the Warner Brother content is worth billions of dollars. So we're out of it. We're out of PSKY. We're out of TKO. Google. I was stunned. Maybe not a lot of people, because I watch this stuff. And Ironwood chip is they're going to go out and do a whole data center with their chips. People are like, what do you mean Google's making chips? Well, I didn't really realize it. I knew they had their own TPUs, but I didn't think they were going to be able to go out and do a whole data center and stuff like that. And, again, 4 times better than the last one, which is the 6, and 30 times better on power. Remember, as DeSantis said, you want an energy data center, you better bring your power. Well, now they're going to start looking at how much do we need to use. I don't have any side-by-side comparisons. That's one of the problems. But Anthropic are going to put 1 million TPU chips in state-of-the-art AI development. So this is a direct competitor to NVIDIA. It's good because there's not enough NVIDIA chips out there. I don't care what everybody says. 2026 is going to be a great year for NVIDIA. But this is good. We've got AMD and Intel fabs out there. We got Samsung, but really it's NVIDIA's up there. But this one, if it works, it's going to be a good second in the chip race. So one of the new stocks we bought, CF Industries, I've been there a lot of times. They do ammonia. I mean, they got all about ammonia. Ammonia is used in crop service. I jumped up when I saw this. I said, 21%. You know, I know this stock for eons, eons. 25 years I've known this stock. I've been to their facilities. Pretty simple market, but the market didn't like the earnings. They dropped it, but you got to remember, in a down week, everything kind of drops. So people don't like the market cycle and the corrections and stuff, and they just like, I wouldn't buy. I'm just selling out. Well, if we're going to sell stocks like TKO and everything else, we're going to replace them. I was trying to get some more balance into the other sectors and stuff. I got to remember what I put. I think materials is what I put CF. I don't even remember what I looked at it. We'll have to look at it.
This is a reminder. Will the S and P hold 7,000?
So if we're at 6,700, all we need is 5% more.
Will the
I
S
think we're going to get it.
and P hold 7,000?
We're about 70% of the earnings through. I think the earnings are good. You know, unemployment, jobs we'll talk about, but I think earnings are good. So therefore, we should get a 5% upside from now, the 11th or 7th, to the end of December. We might hit it in mid-December and then sell off like last year, where just the last 2 days were just down, But when I did the growth, the growth divided by PE, this is a 213. This is actually one of the high. This is better than tech stocks. You'll see it when I show you Palantir and other ones. This means it's got a high growth to price earnings. It's a good stock. Dividend, again, if I have what I call my non-dividend stocks, tech mostly, social media, and then my dividend, my standard S&P stocks, they're all going to have dividends. I don't really want to get a S&P stock that's not a tech or social or information technology or something that doesn't pay a dividend, because there's so many good stocks that do. It's just a matter of finding them. WBC, we had this a long time. Carry, revenue's good, dividends, outstanding. 5% on a REITs. It's growing. It's not like UDR, which we sold, which was going down. This one's trailing up. It's been run well. Do we have regret selling it? No, because we got her out, way before here. It was, we lost to maybe 5%. But and meanwhile, the S&P, as you saw, went up. But we want to have the REITs. I want to have at least a couple REITs, and just to balance it out, because not that I think the REITs will outdo tech any day, but the dividends are good. It stabilizes the portfolio. It takes us from these wild swings of 2022, where we were down 7.5 and the S&P was down like double digits. That's what we're trying to say, is that these balance out. Home Depot, we came back to this one too. I liked Home Depot. It was a choice between Costco and Home Depot, but we have Walmart, and to me, Costco and Walmart are the same. Amazon's the same. They're all three. Home Depot's a different niche. What you buy at Home Depot, you're not going to buy at Walmart. Now, you can buy the power tools at Amazon, but there's something about grabbing the power tools, seeing it in person, and maybe saying, I'm going to get this one. Revenues, okay. It's, growth is okay. It's 16. It'd be nice if it was higher, but that's okay, because, people have it. Now, if you were one of these, like, let's buy Home Depot and not do it, Home Depot has been, essentially flat money the whole year. If you started January, what is it, maybe a 2 or 3%. This is, like I said, Wall Street is one of the places people run out of the thing. When you have a chance to buy at a sale, this is in there. And I didn't think the earnings were that bad. They missed the revenues, and the missed by 4 cents on the earnings, but I thought it was good. Revenues 5% on a retailer, that's fine. So I don't think that's so bad. I think, a lot of times people want to buy it when there's great news. As the housing prices go up, and the interest rates go lower, people are going to buy houses. But this last month, I'm seeing everybody fixing up the house. Exterior siding, roofing. It's like a boom that I hadn't seen before. And this is with high unemployment, or not unemployment, but a lot of layoffs and the frozen government and everything else. So I would have figured it wouldn't be being done. But I'm seeing a lot of construction work. And who's benefiting? Well, those are the people going to buy at Home Depot. You're going to renovate your house. You're going to do some stuff. You're going to buy the stuff from Home Depot. Also, the last earning, power tools, all-time high. There it is. I got people that are fans of power tools, but it is a thing. If people are buying power tools, that means they feel pretty good, and it's getting better. I'm Mr. Cordless. Give me a cordless. Give me electric start. There it is. And we're shifting from cord and plug to and gasoline oil mixtures and stuff like that. So, I look at it. This is a chance to buy it on sale. It was at 371. It was at 430. 420. There's a discount. So that's a chance. You want to get in. That's a good one. Our new, we've been having Microsoft as our software stock. I just been unhappy with the software sector until I found JFrog or Frog. Revenues good, 20%, 25%. Upside guidance even better. But remember, when you do these large language models and you have the module like let's make it speak 25 different languages, or I want to be able to do visual recognition, they're storing it on JFrog. It's going to be the central registry for all these models that they're going to use.
This is a reminder. You think Bitcoin is going to fade away?
No. No. It's just having a talk.
You think Bitcoin is going to fade away?
You see, I think it was yesterday. It was at 99,000. I think it broke 100,000. Alexa, what is the price of Bitcoin? Probably like 103, I think.
One Bitcoin is worth 103,000.
Yeah, see, 103. It's coming back. That's a 3% jump, which is, for a 24-hour, that's not so bad. And we bought a lot yesterday, and like I said, you can buy any time. You'll see what we bought because I had some more data I finally got a hold of, which is really my thing. But you're going to store these, and it allows you to store these modules. I got a visual scanner module. I got a video 10-second module. You can put it on the JFrog. It's in there. The big thing is they're scaling up with large companies. Companies over $1 million up 54%. That's monstrous. So the bigger clients are up there. Again, it doesn't have money, and of course it jumped a lot. And people says you're buying it when it jumps. No, we're buying it when it breaks out. That is always a good time to buy. You've got the channel, it breaks on the upside. You want to buy it there. And people are like, well, you just sit there and go back to Home Depot. It just broke down to the downside. I know, but it's a different side. You got to think about this as a deal as Home Depot, and it's not going to go away. So this one, like I said, it's been kind of inching upward. This is a nice slope for the chart. This is what I like in a stock. I mean, buy it when it breaks out, because that means we got no more sellers. We have a lot of buyers, and it may come back. There'll be profit takers, like there are always profit takers. But this is a stock that's at all-time high, and it's got good news. The earnings yesterday were great. And the job reports. Now, this is the thing that's interesting because we don't have the government open. We don't know what the job unemployment is, but 150,000 new layoffs in October. The worst October since 2023. Woo, that's a pretty stinging number. 1 million this year in 2025. Now, 1 million isn't high. I mean, when we went through COVID, it was absolutely crazy. But these job cuts, where people are making cuts from all the techs and stuff like that, that's an issue. And maybe they'll find out the numbers are not so good for the 1st of November. November would have been normally the jobs number for the month. So I think they'll get it down, with the government, because if they got to see some good news. They got to see some hiring, which hopefully Christmas does take it off. But Palantir, Alex Karp been beating up Michael Burry of the short seller, the Big Short fame, and all these other people shorting the stock. Greatest earnings in the world, blew it off the cover. Every metric, you're beating up the negatives about Palantir and everything else, except that the PE is 416. That's all it is. I mean, now it broke down in the channel here. I think Palantir's high. Now, if you get down here to the 200-day moving average, I'm interested in Palantir. Again, government revenue 52%. Now, this is an interesting thing. That's a thorny issue. What I was more impressed was the commercial doubled the government, because I always say, well, you got government money, but why isn't anybody in the private sector who has got tons of money, trillions of dollars, not buying your product? So it is there. It is there. They're doing it. They're hitting the earnings right. So I think, like I said, we're watching Palantir, and I have a feeling it's going to be kind of like a Tesla. It's going to go jumping down. It broke down the thing. It closed at the 50-day moving average. If it goes down, there'll be a point right here we'll say, okay, fine. The growth is low, but, we can go in there and maybe take a look at it, because I think this is the number that you have to look at. The government revenue, I don't think is not going to be 52%. It's not even going to be 30% a couple years from now. It might be 10%, but this side, if they've got the products and the talent, that's the issue.
This is a reminder. Do you think the scandal with UFC is going to really affect the sport next year?
Yeah, I did. I mean, I went down to the scandal. I think
This
it's
is
going
a
to affect it.
reminder. Do you think the scandal with UFC is going to really affect the sport next year?
Again, if the people making the odds do it so badly that the favorites lose, then people are going to think fights are rigged, and therefore there's a loss of confidence in betting. And if they're not betting, they're not watching, and that's going to affect everything. So, and the reason I put that UFC one there, because the Sphere was exceptionally expensive for the UFC to do, but they did it. But it also sets a new bar. Can you get that kind of revenue in an event with the new team, Paramount? And people like, is that the worst that could happen? I was like, well, no, somebody get killed in the ring, but this is an issue. I think it's a lot of things have to be done. I think they're going to have to go to a 1-year contract with a guaranteed minimum of, like, say, 30,000, like Class A ball players. Berkshire Hathaway, no more war. I thought this is pretty good. I mean, the EPS was better. I mean, that's a pretty good jump, over 10%. I don't look at the revenues because I really don't like to port it like everything else I see. But insurance underwriting, wow, they made a fortune. That's a lot of money. BNSF's the railroad up. Energy down, which is odd. I don't understand why. We don't know Berkshire, so I'm not going to dig into it. But they have a lot of positives. On the insurance side, of course, it's been dead ugly money this year, and that's the way it kind of works with Buffett. He can beat 3 out of 4, but the year he doesn't beat, like this year, is pretty ugly. So again, April it went down. I mean, we saw stocks that we showed before, they've doubled. Berkshire actually went down, so a lot of people are like, oh, it's gone, and the Buffett premium's gone. All right, let's talk about our 3 cryptos that we bought. We bought Near, and this is a stock. I call them stocks, but a crypto that was $8. It's at $2.81. 51 million active addresses. It's the number 2 blockchain. That's the data I wanted to see. I wanted to see some numbers on what the quantity is, and so we bought Near. We sold all our what I call meme stocks. Shiba Inu, Dogecoin, AV. Where I don't think they're going to be. It's nice to have, it's cute, but I don't think people are going to use it in the future. I mean, we're talking trillions of dollars of transactions coming up in the future via these tokens and crypto, and that's what people want. The one universal currency is going to be the dollar. It's going to be crypto, and it's a matter of which 5, 10 they're going to start using. B&B, Binance, 44 million transactions in a month. That's a monster one. Again, China's banned the use of crypto, but man, if they ever change, this could be just sky high. But I mean, people are like, wow, it went up a lot. Yeah, so did Bitcoin. Bitcoin peaked at 126 and went down 100. This one is just cut in half. So a lot of people are like, man, that's a haircut. But I just, to me, it's a sale. Kind of like a shoulder, head, shoulder. I mean, I don't know. I think it's an area. Again, we bought into it. One that I didn't put a lot into is just that Google has a partner called Apt, and of course this has been dogged like a lot of other stocks, but they provide it, running validation, and I don't know. I don't have, we have a very small percentage in this, but just to try to see it, at least to get it in there, because when I get it in my accounts, I can watch it a lot closer. When people are like, what do you mean watch things closer? Well, I look at the stocks, and I'm just going to show it to you. Of course, I can't get my phone to pop up here. I mean, this is aftermarket, but I watch all these things. I can check it every day. I can check it every hour and see what the stocks are doing. Same thing for the crypto. I can see what they're doing, and I get alerts if it jumps like over 5% in a day, or Bitcoin moved 3%. And I just watch it, because then you get a feel like what's happening in the crypto market. I don't have to know the price. I just have to know what's been happening. And this is just a thing. Is this going to go in? Or I don't know. I mean, I don't feel as confident as these two, because these two are, like number one transactional. Number two, Solana's number one by far. Solana's like 2.1 billion transactions. I mean, it's not even close. So that's why, my largest position will be Solana because I think that's the future. It's fastest, it's going, but you can't ignore what people are using also. Chainlink also. The Energy XLE, exchange traded fund. Uh, Energy, man, everybody think, oh, it's great, but man, it's not been a good thing for the oils and some of the other take. A lot of reds and pinks, which means it went down from the year to date from revenues ago. Of course, oil was higher then, so that makes sense. But we're heavy. We sold our fuel cell because it was negative. We took a small loss on it, but we were only like a 10% position in it, and we were slowly adding to the other ones. But this is a kind of a thing. When we look at ExxonMobil, look at it. It's the exact same chart because ExxonMobil's the gorilla in the room. But they went down only 5% in revenue. You got to remember, when you're making billions of dollars a quarter, that ain't such a big deal. Billions of dollars a quarter. You could buy half the companies I just put up here for what Exxon makes in a quarter. If Exxon had said, "Hey, let's buy tech," we could buy, $10 billion of tech every quarter and, be kind of a big ugly mess. But again, I look at it. I think it's the best managed, and if they're going to get in lithium, which somebody's got the idea in Arkansas, maybe they can do it. But let's take a look at the other ones we have. The negative PE, so there's no growth. Dividends good, ExxonMobil. I mean, I like it. These are nice things because remember, if our interest rates get down to, I don't think they'll get down to 2%, for the 2-year or even the 10-year. But if it gets down where this is higher than the interest rate, then there are going to be people who are going to look at it. If we're only getting 2.8 at the bonds, then why not buy ExxonMobil? It's like a bond, except that it pays better and it gets better because they buy back stock, which makes the dividend goes up higher yet. So, I mean, I'm a fan of it. And of course, this one, good chart, negative growth in a gas company and equity, EQT is something I'm looking at, but the chart here is good. Everybody just wants to go up, and again, 3% dividends good for a gas company. I wanted gas. I didn't want everything to be refineries and oil, and so this is my gas pick. At the time EQT was so high, I just said, well, this one's good, but good dividend, slowly growing. I'll take this for energy any day. And then Fluence, market cap's small. Like I said, 1/4 of Exxon, you could just buy Fluence, and this one is, like our meme stock. When we got into it in August, right around here, you can see we've doubled our money on it. Doubled our money on it. And of course, this is not a smooth ride. This is choppy as blazes. Coming up to this, another triangle up here, people are like, oh man, will it go up higher? I says, well, as long as the revenues goes, 24% annual revenue growth, that's the key number. You stay in the 20s, it'll grow. If you get down to 8, then we're probably going to be out of it. And then, of course, Bloom's the darling, 57% growth. That's great. And that's, again, getting in all these stocks here, now it's up high. Growth has come down quite a bit, because this price has gone up to match it. So, again, no dividend, of course. It's a 31 billion versus, the last one was 5. So it's doing good because they got data centers, and that's why we want to be in a stock. I've been waiting to see, any kind of Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Meta data center using these other alternative energies where I can actually say, yeah, there's a picture of it. They're using it. That's what I want to see. I don't want to hear about we got clients, we're talking to them. I want to see the actual thing in production where you got a hyperscaler using your product, because that's a good sign. Because if one hyperscaler uses it, you might get the rest of them. And that's worth thinking. Plug, again, 20% growth, good. More products seem like overseas than anything else. Again, what a nightmare ride. We're coming in over here. We're still a little bit above it. But, man, you could have doubled and sold your money. That's the trouble. It's like a meme stock. Again, a good quarter, a good buy-in from a area with their hydrogen. You could just take off. So, another one, people say we should have sold. Well, You don't know how high it's going to. I've been through GameStop. I've been through AMC when they got crazy. Again, I'm looking at as long as the growth is good, we're going to stick in it. If we start to get single digits or they lose negative, then we're getting out of it. And so here's all the stuff. I mean, we sold Cardano, we sold TKO, Dogecoin, Paramount, Shiba Inu, AV, UDR, Klarna. We sold because Klarna we just didn't do good. We just entered at 10% and didn't do much. And of course, it's not probably a good time. But let's get the lockups through, let the insiders sell out, and then we'll see. Hoka, that retailer, just whatever reason we bought it and then just slowly been dwindling down. Same for look, I put these two twice. Novacor, we're going to get back into Novacor, but right now there's a lot of sellers in Novacor, and I'm not sure why. Got proven cancer treatment, but when the tape is just telling you it's going in here. We bought B&B near Apt, CF, and Frog, and Home Depot. I didn't put Home Depot down here, but Home Depot would be in here. Let's look at the week. Well, we got Microsoft and NVIDIA. Wow, what a beating. And that's just in there. Meta's, you can add Meta we own, and Google kind of up there. But remember, these are AI stocks. The bubble's scaring people, so people are getting out of it. Could it be like this next week? It could be. Remember, we're expecting a correction. We have nothing wrong with those stocks, and we'll go through it. What's good? Walmart, Lilly, of course, Berkshire, where JP Morgan is another stock, Exxon Mobil. So the big stocks that we had that offset it, that's why we didn't get beat up as bad. If you were all tech, you got pretty well hammered and stuff. Long week, good to get it over with. Let's see what next week. Let's hope the government shutdown ends next. 41 is the over and under, which it puts it about the 11th or so. We'll see. See you next time. Bye.